So welcome to Gung Haggis Fat Choy 2021. Let's hear the bagpipers. I wrote a poem called What is Gung Haggis Fat Choy? It is the intersection of Chinese and Scottish cultures in a new land, in a new voice, in a new vision. It is Gung Haggis Fat Choy, Gong Si Fai Sa, the traditional Chinese New Year greeting meaning longevity and fortune. It is Robbie Burns Day, the celebration of Scottish poet Robert Burns and all things Scottish, including the national dish of haggis. Oatmeal and sheep organs mixed together and cooked in the stomach of a sheep lining, just like some perverse mix of multiculturalism, reconstructed, reconstituted, regurgitated. Gung Haggis Fat Choy. The Chinese called this land Gamsan, Gold Mountain. They came across the far Pacific from the west, and the Scots gave it the name of Nova Scotia, New Scotland. They came across the far Atlantic from the east. Westerners became Easterners, and the far east colludes and collides with the far west. Gung Haggis Fat Choy. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something brewed. Gung Haggis Fat Choy. It is the play on words. It is the playing of music. It is the play on cultures. It is the play of time and place. It is simply the play of you and me, the playing of us and we. Hi, Todd Wong here at the Museum of Vancouver, and it's a special exhibit called A Seat at the Table, celebrating Chinese immigration in British Columbia. So part of it is it's an initiative by the Chinese Canadian Museum of BC, and I'm going to read what it says here off this chart here. It says, a seat at the table is an opportunity to consider the contributions that Chinese migrants and their descendants have made to British Columbia, a province built from the interaction of successive and concurrent waves of migration and uninterrupted occupation by Indigenous peoples. So on that, my grandfather came in 1888, my great-grandfather came in 1891. Our family married into First Nations, so Chief Rhonda Larrabee, my mom's cousin, is Chief of Kakite, New Westminster Band. But how do we bring all these people together with the Scottish, the Chinese, all the different migrations? We serve you food. So food is a great equalizer. It's a great way to have culture. And for Gung Haggis Fat Choy, Robbie Burns Chinese New Year dinner, I've been invited to many other Robbie Burns dinners. I've been accepted by the BC Highland Games. We've carried a parade dragon in the Chinese Lunar New Year parade, and this is so cool. Even here at the museum exhibit, here's a picture of our Gung Haggis Fat Choy Dragon Boat team. So we're creating this, bringing you a short visit here to the museum. It's wonderful. There's lots of exhibits on food, egg tarts, banquet tables, even Paul Wong's art exhibit on the food that his mother made. So enjoy. So now we're going to welcome Bill McFadden, the organizer of the Gung Haggis Fat Choy Seattle dinner. Bill, how are you doing?
Very good, Todd. How are you?
Looking good. I like your COVID beard there.
That's exactly what it is.
So Bill's going to give us the Selkirk Grace, which is a tradition that is always given, and it's given as a blessing for the food.
Some hay meat and cannot eat. Some would eat that want it, but we have meat and we can eat. Say, let the Lord be thanked.
Thank you, Bill. You know, the last public event I attended last year was the Gung Haggis Fat Choy Seattle dinner with you. So it's been a long time. So we're really glad to have you back here. And next, we're going to have Simon Kempston, my buddy in Scotland. How is it? How early in the morning is it, Simon?
It's 1:30 in the morning. It's I'm hoping not to wake any neighbours, but if I do, maybe they'll join with a dram. They'd be very, very welcome.
Oh, excellent. I'll go get a dram while you play your song.
Thank you very much for having me. It's very, very much appreciated. I'm just going to sing a quick song. I think it's quite apt for the occasion. It's one of mine, an original composition, and it tells the story of a young, wayward singer-songwriter on a wintry morning in Inverness who bumped into an old, drunken old man who initially asked him what time the bus was to another town in the Scottish Highlands called Nairn, but ended up going drinking all day with said singer-songwriter. That singer-songwriter was, of course, me. The first verse is as true as I can remember. Everything else is the best guess that I've got. Here we go. Thanks again for having me, and I hope to see you all in person next year. And yeah, welcome from Old Reekie, Scotland. What time does the bus leave that one to Nairn? Please tell me now, mister, it's after 10:30. What time does the bus leave? How long do we have left? Please tell me now, mister. Oh, I'll tell you, only if you're good. There's Kenny the preacher on his placard high. God loves you and everyone, no such thing as I. There's Kenny the preacher, not in quoting the Psalms, given half a chance, oh, he'll convert you, given half a chance. I'll sing to you, take a drink for me, heartbroken, words I'll sing to you, take a drink for you, love spoken. We're all bandits here, mate, each and every one. I not seen a good one, not even my own son. We're all bandits here, mate. Move on somewhere else, somewhere more inspiring. That's my advice, my best advice, only for today. See the woman in black, united in their cause, holding a protest against the Afghan wars. See the woman in black, I don't think they like me much. They won't listen to me. I don't care really, I don't care much for them. Well, I told you so, yes, I told you so. Police siren, I'll be on my way. That's me for today, next week at the same time. Just one more thing, son, I bust an in. Tell the ladies I have the answer, I'll give it to them. Tell them I'm a character, plenty money to spend. A font of all knowledge, here's a pint for your trouble, a dram for your trouble. You sing very well.
Slanchava, thank you very much. That's so excellent, Simon. Welcome to Chinatown in the Museum of Vancouver. It's saltwater city, Ham Soi Phao. San Francisco was big water city, but I'm trying to imagine what was it like for my grandmother, my grandparents, my great-great-grandfather, Reverend Chan Yu Tan, came to Victoria in 1896. My dad's grandfather, he came at age 16 in 1888, and then somehow years later he's managing the biggest dry goods store in Victoria. So there's exhibits here on dry goods stores, laundries, the Yip Sang building, who Yip Sang used to look after the Chinese railway builders when they would come. They're trying to make Chinatown come alive and represent it here. It's kind of cool. How long did people come here for? Because Chinese people, they might have been coming before that. Fusang was the legendary land beyond China, beyond the Pacific, beyond Japan. Buddhist monks, maybe they sailed all the way down the coast. There are Chinese anchors discovered in San Francisco Bay. There are Chinese watchtowers discovered in Nova Scotia, Madagascar, different places. Maybe ancient world, ancient travelers.
Step gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row, all from Mary's wedding. Over hillways, up and down, myrtle green and bracken brown, past the ceiling through the town, all for sake of Mary. Step gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row on row, off for Mary's wedding. Plenty herring, plenty meal, plenty peat to fill her creel, plenty bonny Burns' will, that's a toast for Mary. Step gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row on row, off for Mary's wedding. Cheeks as white as rowans are, brighter far than any star, fairest of them all by far is my darling Mary.
That is great. Thank you, guys. Our new impromptu Gung Haggis Fat Choy band. But now, going to Toronto, we have Paul Yee, a big inspiration and role model for many, many people. Thank you, Paul, for joining in.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for inviting me. So you asked me to start by talking about my own personal Scottish connection. Well, my Scottish connection takes place in a small town in Saskatchewan, and it takes place 63 years ago. 63 years ago, I was fostered out to Clarence Mack's family. I was with them for almost a year, and they were ready to adopt me. But then family in Vancouver intervened. But if that adoption had happened, then I would be Paul Mack. So what I'm doing today is reading a poem. This is a poem that's dedicated to Jim Wong Chu. It's a documentary poem that records an event that happened in the 70s that we worked on. And it was like a festival, just like this one, the New Year's Festival. This was the Mid-Autumn Festival, the Grass Dragon. Pender Street is silent this Sunday morning. Early cooks pass by, rub sleep from their eyes, and wonder who we are. And we are gathered with our cleavers and our clippers. The Kung Fu kids can't stay still and slash with them and play kill. The rest would rather sleep a while. The farm is 40 minutes away. The grass is long and moist, just what the master ordered. Grass for our grass dragon, yet to be awakened. Grass from the Fraser soils, we've body to legend. We unload ourselves from the truck and survey the field. But how do you start? We're city people, suddenly free. We've never seen the earth from our knees. We spread out to work, hand clench the grass, pull it taut, cut it away near the root, lay it aside, and move on. The grass grows wild and sharp. We dig for gloves. Our knees are wet and black, and we squat instead. There's a jug of tea, Chinese pastries, 2 loaves of uncut bread, and cheese, green plums from the deserted orchard. We're hungry and we come together. We are back in the earth, bent and pulling, cutting and aching, thankful for the merciful clouds, and pray that the rain will wait. Was it like this in the rice paddies? The grass we tie into bundles, piled high in the driveway. At 2, we make a chain, pass our labor onto the truck, linking a bed that we jump into for a sweet trip home together. We come again 3 times more. We sail out earlier, sweep further up the valley for the finest long grass, lean and supple. Dragon grass, seeded from hope and daring. And this dream ripens into gold as our harvests rise higher, sweating in a Strathcona garage. And the festival drifts close as the autumn moon swells full. We are underground carpenters scattered throughout Chinatown. In the warehouse basement, long handfuls of grass are coiled, wrapped into tendons for a rippling whip, now at ease, laid door to door, back and forth, waiting for the thunder of heavy drums and the running, rolling feet to pump life and fire and fury through its straw-dry veins. In another basement, up Pender Street, more hands cast a noble head, raising a wooden snout high, like a prow flanked by proud eyes and soaring whiskers of curled foil. It will be the first. Girls have never run the dragon poles. We have never seen this dragon or known its tradition. Joss sticks to fan out from its life core of grass, stabbing the moon with a million bristling glowing eyes. It will catch the screams of the children, pound Pender Street in a new beat, spark memories of old China, exploding in a new cloud of firecracker incense, and summon us to celebrate our first dragon, made in Canada. We can only wait. We can hardly wait. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul. That was so lovely. And of course, you dedicated that to Jim Wong Chu, who had a Google Doodle on his birthday this year. That is so amazing. A Canadian poet receives a Google Doodle. And so Bonnie Nish, creator of Pandora's Collective and the executive director of Word Vancouver, is here to read a Jim Wong Chu poem with me. It's called Recipe for Tea, and Jim wrote it, and it starts off in China, and it describes how tea went from China to England via Scottish traders who, along the journey, the tea became very, very rotten and stuff, and so it would be fermented. So that's why you pour tea and sugar into the, and Bonnie's going to describe the tea ceremony, a Chinese tea ceremony, and the bubbles start off very, very small, shrimp eyes, crab eyes, fish eyes. So when everything is right, we're going to start. Thank you. Recipe for tea, pronounced tea or tay. The origin is Fukienese or a Scottish dialect.
A modest pot, enough for 4 small cups. Insert tea, green or fermented or in a bag.
The first ships came to trade. The area was Fukien and the traders were Scottish.
The water boiled separately.
Brought it back, bastardized it, made it mud, drowned in heavy cream, 2-3 teaspoons of colonial sugar.
Keep your eyes on the bubbles. Shrimp eyes, crab eyes, fish eyes.
In search for a monopoly, planted in India after their first crop, opium.
The optimum is crab eyes, crab clattering before fish winking.
The second ships brought my forefathers high tea, high civilized tea, biscuits, crumpets, crystallized ginger, fragrant cinnamon spices.
Note, the first pour is not for drink.
The best known tea party was in Boston. The tea was Chinese, but none invited.
Pour only to cleanse and awaken. Steep briefly, discard.
The third ships brought me. The second pour, discovery. The third pour, exhilaration. The final pour, afterthought.
If desired, repeat.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Todd.
That's great. And so now, another museum video. The Pioneers in Vancouver. Welcome to the permanent exhibit parts of the Museum of Vancouver. This is about the history of Vancouver. I like to bring friends here who are visiting, and it's really kind of neat. Here's a streetcar that my parents used to drive or ride all the way out to New Westminster. The history of Vancouver is here in so many different ways, and it's a young city. 1886. The first mayor was Malcolm McLean from Scotland. 1871, the first premier of this province was John Foster McCreight from Caledon, Ireland. Caledon sort of means Scotland. It's a relation because when Simon Fraser came, he wanted to name this place New Caledonia, but it was already, the name was already taken. Simon Fraser, Scottish origins, but he was actually born in the United States on the border between Vermont and New York. And his mother brought him to Canada because they were loyalists and there was a revolution happening in the US. So this is what was happening in BC at the time. 1859 was the founding of the colony of British Columbia by Sir James Douglas, who was half black and half Scottish. And it's only in, when was the 1867? Oops, Canada is founded as a nation. So we're pretty young here. I've traveled all the way to Nova Scotia. I've had Chinese food there. Newfoundland also had their own head tax for Chinese coming in. I've been in BC, Ottawa, Toronto, Quebec. Je peux parler en français plus mieux que je parle en chinois, but this is BC, and how do we make this happen? And now we're going to welcome somebody who knows a lot about Canada, at least I think, and I hope he does. Ken McGugan, who wrote the book 50 Canadians That Changed the World and so many other books. And so, Ken, I am drinking Dalmore. What are you drinking?
We got a little Glenlivet here. It seems to be hitting the spot.
Oh, excellent. And what's Sheila drinking?
Sheena's drinking the same. We have our drams here, and we're ready to toast.
Okay. Excellent. Way to go, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen here, Todd. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. This idea, let's invite Scotland to join Canada. What happened was, so I wrote those 4 books that are basically about the relations between Canada and Scotland. And doing the research took me all over Scotland. Here we see me on the Isle of Gia. I'm looking there at the tombstone of my earliest ancestor from Scotland, although I also have French Canadian in me, all kinds of other things. But pursuing the Scottish, this guy John McGugan from the early 1700s, and not far away, just across a bit of water in Kintyre, went to the top of Cruach McGugan. A Gaelic speaker might translate Cruach as big hill, but I prefer to go with Mount. So it's Mount McGugan. That's my story, and I stick to it. Now, talking about the connections and the links that I turn up, well, here's another situation. Okay, there you see Sheena, whose maiden name was Fraser, Sheena Fraser McGugan. And they're at the battlefield of Culloden. I'm sure many of you know it. Her grandfather, William Fraser, built that, or he was the architect who designed the Robert Burns National Memorial in Mauchline. And here you see another building that some of you may recognize. That's the Household Sciences building right in the heart of Toronto, opposite the Royal Ontario Museum. Her grandfather also built that. So these are the connections that, he designed that turn up. Sheena is a painter. Some of you will probably recognize this abode, Alloway Cottage, where Robert Burns was born and raised. And Burns, of course, is connected right across Canada with the multitudinous Burns suppers that we all attend. So doing this research, I got this crazy idea. Let's invite Scotland to join Canada because there's already so many connections. So, I mean, Scotland wants autonomy, but all Canadian provinces, if you analyze it, as I have done, have more powers than Scotland does now. And Quebec has far more. All provinces can levy their own taxes, control their own natural resources. Quebec even has a Ministry of International Relations. Autonomy, look, in 2006, Canada recognized that the Quebecois form a nation within a united Canada. If Canada can accommodate Quebec and the Quebecois, why not Scotland and the Scots? Okay. What would happen to the demographics? Well, look, Scottish Canadians would number 10 million, 5.3 million in Scotland, plus 4.7 million people of Scottish heritage here in Canada. That would be 25% of the Canadian total, compared with 8.3% in the UK. So that's kind of what you call a power block. The new political map of Canada, Canada plus Scotland, Scotland becomes the 3rd largest province. There's populations, Ontario 13.9 million, Quebec 8.3, Scotland 5.3. So I guess it just edges out BC. Sorry about that, Todd. Okay, objection, look, Scotland's not contiguous. Well, that's true, but so what? Today's instant connections, the internet, we were just talking to Scotland or listening, rapid air travel. Look, consider Hawaii an American state. Scotland is nearer to Newfoundland than Hawaii is to California. And actually, Glasgow is nearer to Halifax than Halifax is to Vancouver. So distances nowadays, they're not in the 19th century. They're different. Then came the Brexit vote. Okay, look, Scotland didn't vote for Brexit. England did. Scotland wanted to stay in the European Union. So if Scotland was part of Canada, it could rejoin the EU, not as a nation of 5.3 million, but as part of a country of almost 42 million. The Scots would increase their clout, and Canadians gain a foothold in multicultural Europe. So they're talking about another Scottish referendum. I would suggest they should offer 3 choices on that ballot. Stick with England, move to independence, or join Canada. Let's make that a third option. Let's invite Scotland to join Canada. I don't know if I've convinced you, but I hope I've given you something to think about. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Ken. Thank you very much. I think I'll give a shout out to my friends in Edinburgh, Anya and Jenna Lau, because I think they will really like your ideas. So that's amazing. And I got to apologize to Sheena because I called her Sheila. And that's only because Sheila Rogers introduced us, and I always think Sheila. But on to the next bit. We have the haggis coming out. Bagpipers, you're ready. Let's bring out the haggis. Excellent. The haggis carriers are bagpipers Jonesy Wu, Joe McDonald, and the haggis bearer, Stephen Wong. So we're going to place that down there. Joe and I will perform the rap address to the haggis.
Fair for your honest sonsy face, great chieftain, oh, the pudding race. Aboon them all, you talk your place, paint, tripe, or therm. Well, are you worthy? Oh, a grace as long's my arm.
As long's my arm.
As long's my arm.
The groaning trencher, there you fill. Your hurdies like a distant hill. Your pinwood madwood help them mill in time of need. Well, through your pores the deuce distill like amber bead.
Like amber bead.
Everybody like amber bead.
His knife's a rustic labor date. And cut ye out with ready slate. Cussing ya. Trenchant entrails, right, like only ditch. Oh, what a glorious sight! Warm, reeking rich.
Warm, reeking rich.
Warm, reeking rich.
Then horn for horn they stretch and strive. They'll take the hindmost on they drive till all their well-wrought kites belive are bent like drums. Then old good men must like to ride. Be thank it hums.
Be thank it hums.
Be thank it hums.
Is there that or his French ragout or olio or asu or fricassee or marker spew with perfect scunner? Look down with sneer and scornful view. I'm sick of dinner. I'm sick of dinner.
I'm sick of dinner. Then I forgot. And then horn for horn. No, not that one.
Mark.
Then Mark the rustic haggis fed. The trembling earth resounds its tread. Clap in his wally knave a blade, he'll make it whistle. And legs and arms and heads will sned like taps of thistle. Like taps of
like taps
thistle.
of thistle.
Like taps of thistle.
Ye, what makes mankind just care, and dish them out their bill of fare. Old Scotland wants nae skinking wear the jumps and luggies. But if you wish a grateful prayer, give her a haggis.
Give her a haggis.
Give her a haggis.
Give her a haggis.
A haggis.
There we go. I think we missed a verse. But wonderful. We've been doing this for many years, and sometimes we screw up. That's all right.
Could be this, maybe? I don't know.
Only wee bit. Okay, we've got another museum piece video for you, and then poetry by Neil Aiken coming in from Regina. Here I am in another exhibit at A Seat at the Table at Museum of Vancouver. This is a really cool room because it's got all these lighted quotes about racial discrimination, systemic discrimination, and it's also got pushback from activists. So how do we overcome these things? And to me, I'm really inspired by Robert Burns and one of his best poems, A Man's a Man for All That. And so I'm going to read a little bit about it. And it says that sense and worth all over the earth shall bear the gree and all that. For all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that. That man to man, the whole world over, shall brothers be for all that. And yet, here's a quote, and I am happy to say that the legislature of the province passed a law prohibiting the Chinese from voting, and from that day to the present, they have not been allowed the franchise. That's from the House of Commons. And these laws weren't really repealed until after World War II because Chinese Canadian veterans like my Uncle Dan, my grandmother's younger brother, and my friend Wong fought in World War II. Other activism, we have Douglas Jung, the first Chinese Canadian MP. his son Arthur was paddling on our dragon boat team. Oh, Shirley Chan. She helped to fight against the freeway that would have torn down Strathcona. Also involved there, then Mike Harcourt, who would become the premier of the province, but my cousin Joe Way, who's the architect of the Dr. Sun Yat-sen, one of my first role models, and I always wondered, isn't that normal that we do activism? Robbie Burns was an activist.
It's wonderful to be here. I'm Neil Aiken. I am the embodiment of this festival because my ancestry is both Scottish and Chinese. My grandfather came over from Lanarkshire, Scotland in about 1920 when he was 14 years old on his own. And my parents met while going to school in Hawaii. So they met in the middle. My mother's from Taiwan. And I wanted to read something tonight. Actually, I went back and forth between a few different options, but I want to read something to remember in honor of my grandfather and also of my father, but also ties into this mixture of cultures and these moments in which we kind of occupy all these different spaces. This is entitled Burials, and is dedicated to both my father and to his father. Pulling through Montana in the snow, we cling to the taillights of the last car blurring back into the darkness. Like the inside of a coffin, my father says, as if knowing the exact shade the Dead Sea, lying stiff, frozen eyes peering up through closed lids. He shifts in his seat, watches the road disappear, thinks again of dying and the burials we've seen, his father's simple reduction to ashes, how small the urn, how light, for a man that stood 6'3", carried a boy on his shoulders, lived on trains as a youth, picked apples as a man. This past summer, watching him thin to disappearing, blurring out lines between lives, my father trying to return pieces, fragments, time. The body burning, the dark smells of crematoriums, funeral homes, and pale-faced lawyers. Something merges, ends, and begins. My father placing the ashes back into the air, offerings to the skies, to the seas, unaware how Buddhist he is at this moment, how the faint sound of bagpipes echoes, how the ashes fall catching light, reflecting something back into the silence, the dark birth of the sun coming into view. Thank you.
Oh, we got sound. Okay. Okay, we're just having some technical things and trying to make this up because we never knew how to do this before we did this. In 1 week, technical things are happening, and we thank everybody for coming. So thank you, Neo, for coming in, and we're making gaffes all over the place, but we're really glad to meet Neo, and I asked Neo, because he was recommended to us by Fiona Lamb, who's going to be coming up next as a poet after Michelle Carlisle performs a Robbie Burns song. But Neo, actually, we met many years ago when he got to carry the dragon at one of our Gung Haggis Fat Choy poetry events. So really cool. Thank you very much, Neil. And now Michelle Carlisle, who makes really good cookies and performs in the Halifax Wharf Rats, Triskelion, Blackthorn, who performed with Gung Haggis Fat Choy many years ago. So thank you, Michelle, for coming.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, everybody at home. Yes, these things happen. I do my own live stream, and it's always exciting as to what the technology is going to do. So this is a song that Todd asked me to perform because it's one of Robbie Burns' most famous poems, also turned into a song he wrote in 1794, and was most inspirational to the famous Bob Dylan. And so this is a song called My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose. And here we go.
My love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. My love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. As fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry, till all the seas gang dry, my dear, till all the seas gang dry, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. But fare thee will my only love, oh fare thee will a while, and I will come again, my love, though 'twere 10,000 mile, though 'twere 10,000 mile, my love, though 'twere 10,000 mile, and I will come again, my love, though 'twere 10,000 mile.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And I thought this is a perfect lead-in for Fiona Tinway Lamb, who I can also say is a cousin of a cousin. So all my relations. Thank you, Fiona. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks so much for that introduction. I was really enjoying Michelle's singing. What a wonderful voice you have, Michelle, and a wonderful song for this evening. Thanks so much. It was wonderful. So I'm going to, yes, applause for Michelle. I'm going to be reading two poems that I think suit a feast and a celebration like this. They're from my book, Odes and Laments. And the book does have some laments that lament man's dominion, breaking nature's social union. but that also has many celebratory poems about the ordinary things we overlook, trying to find wonder and delight in the everyday. They're inspired by Pablo Neruda's Odes to Ordinary Things, defamiliarizing the familiar. So there are a lot of food poems, rice, oranges, peaches, potatoes, cake, lemons, and many ordinary objects as well. But I thought I would read something that has a little bit of a cultural component too. So I'll start with, there'll be two poems, and the first will be Ode to the Plate. And the word plate comes from the Greek platus, meaning broad or flat. So here's Ode to the Plate, and some of you are eating and feasting right now, so it seems a poem that's right for this moment. Ode to the Plate. In ancient times, a domestic discus hurled to smash death's cycle at funeral feasts. Each crash a shout of praise for dancer, singer, bride, and groom. In Beijing, acrobats finesse quivering blurs of balance atop poles of bamboo. Moon after moon restored to the heavens. But it's mostly in cupboards we discover you, stacked with your companions like fossilized vertebra of some squat prehistoric animal, at intervals individuated, buttoning down tables during each day's plateaus. Open-palmed, you are expectant. Sometimes platforms for buffet avalanches, converging rivers of gravy, syrup, sauce, and cream. Other times, in long wait, bereft, yearning to flee Earth's despairs like a B-movie UFO. But no longer. Now, a shared pot. And here are our portions, yours, mine, and circled. Let abundance come round with its daily embrace. The second poem, and last poem I'll read, is about chopsticks. And I don't know how many of you out there are adept at chopsticks, but there are many types of chopsticks, and each Asian culture might have a few different distinct formal habits and etiquette around chopsticks. But I was taught how to use chopsticks properly by my grandfather, a very strict, austere man who rarely cracked a smile. When he came to visit us in Vancouver, we always had to be very, very careful about our manners. And yes, thanks. I see those terrific chopsticks there. Oh, Todd's very good at them. So if you have chopsticks, hold them up. I'm holding a stand-in for a marble because that's how I was taught by my grandpa. So here's this poem, Ode to Chopsticks, from my Odes and Laments. Grandfather sets down the bowl full of marbles. I pick up the chopsticks and hover. Then picture my hand as a heron with a long, long beak plunging down to pluck each orb, lift it through air and held breath in a tremulous trip toward the saucer. 5,000 years of evolution in hand. Branches honed to stir ancient cauldrons become sleek batons of ivory, gold, or jade adorning an aristocrat's table. With their deft dance and dip, more adroit than a fork, twin acrobats poised to hoist choice morsels, crisp shard of duck skin, noodle strands, fish cheeks, single green pea. Let your elders lead, he tells me. Never point your chopsticks at a guest. Never spear your food like a fisherman. Don't tap the side of your bowl like a beggar. Keep them by the plate when you rest or across the bowl at meal's end, but never upright like incense burning in an urn for the dead. While he watches, stiff bamboo grows nimble. One by one, each small glassy planet arcs up, then lands with a clink. The bowl gleams, empty. Grandfather nods. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Fiona, that was wonderful reading. And again, thank you for recommending Neil Aitken. And of course, Fiona was born in Scotland. I didn't hear much of an accent there, but I'm going to talk to you, Fiona, and order some of the Chinese Scotland friendship tartan, and we'll make up some kilts and mini kilts. They'll be great.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So maybe when our next speaker goes back to Scotland, Dr. Leith Davis, you can pick up a bolt of tartan for us. Is Leith there? And,
yeah, I am. Hi, Todd.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. So Leith, you were born in Saskatchewan, and that's where Neil is right now. So maybe you guys have met?
There's a prairie connection too. I was just reading Michelle is from Saskatchewan too. So we're prairie people drawn to community in many different ways.
Excellent. You've got the floor.
Okay, that's terrific. Well, I've just been enjoying this so much. So thank you so much, Todd, for bringing people together in this remote way. I'm Leith Davis. I'm the director of the Center for Scottish Studies at Simon Fraser University. And I should just say Simon Fraser University, also I live and work on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So I am coming to you and with that sense of being as a settler scholar on those lands too. So I'm going to share my screen here. Just give me 1 second, and hopefully this will work here. You should be seeing a picture of Robert Burns and a telegraph machine and Zoom there. Is that working? Thumbs up. Yep, great, excellent. So Todd is bringing us together with this technology of Zoom, and I thought it would be fun for us to just go back and think about how there's so much with Robert Burns that is facilitated through technology over time. So I have just a few slides I want to share with you, and the theme of Burns and technology and people reaching out to communities that are beyond their immediate present here. So as you may or may not know, the first Robert Burns Supper took place in 1801. And there were 9 friends of Burns who gathered at the cottage. This is the cottage that Ken showed a picture of in his presentation. It was at the time a pub, and they did indeed gather and eat sheep's head and haggis. And it might have stopped at that point, but for the fact that one of the organizers, Reverend Hamilton Paul, was also an advertiser at a newspaper. So he's an editor there, and he put in the paper a report of the gathering that was done by friends, and it appealed to so many people that the idea of the Burns Supper developed from that point. So the newspaper was really important early on in spreading that technology. The newspaper was important in spreading the idea of the Burns Supper. In 1859, there was also an important technological facilitation around the Burns Supper, and that was the 1859 Burn Centenary. It was the first coordinated Burns celebration. Now, from 1801 to 1859 there, it had blossomed into about 872 celebrations that were held all over the world, from Dumfries in Scotland to Dunedin in New Zealand, including 48 in the colonies, and that's what we were at that point. We know about these various presentations because we have some illustrations of them in the Illustrated London News, which was also a technological innovation at the time, showing us pictures. So we can see, kind of looking back in the past, we can see, for example, the Burns dinner that was held at the Corn Exchange in Edinburgh, thousands of these people celebrating Robert Burns. There was a similar kind of celebration at the Crystal Palace in London. And again, you can see the swarms of people here with the bust of Robert Burns there in the center. Even here closer to home in Montreal, there was a Burns supper that was held with hundreds of people who gathered together. What was innovative in these occasions was that they drew on telegraphic greetings. Now, the telegraph was a new technology at this point. So within Britain and within Canada's and the US, at this point, people sent each other telegraphic greetings. It was like the email of the day, and instantly they had greetings that were sent to each other from other places. This wasn't the time of the transatlantic cable. That would take another 10 years. But in 1859, people around the world were able to hear and share greetings with individuals who weren't in their immediate vicinity. And what we see also in this Burns event that happened in 1859 is people start talking about Burns himself as being like electricity. So, for example, the chairman of the New Orleans celebration said, "The electric flash blends our feelings in one current as the magic songs of Burns unite the hearts of his countrymen throughout the world." And I think Michelle has just united our hearts with that wonderful song that she sung earlier too. So I want to flash forward and just quickly touch down on a more recent event that was facilitated through technology. And I know you remember this, Todd, in 2009 for the 250th anniversary of Burns's death. Todd and I organized email greetings, and the technology that we used at that time was the BlackBerry. So we met at the Burns statue in Stanley Park, and we sent greetings around the world using the BlackBerry. Today, all of us are gathered here to celebrate Burns, to join with different communities, to celebrate the Year of the Ox coming in, and thank goodness, the exit of the rat, Year of the Rat. And I just wanted to end on the note by suggesting that Burns here is still representing a kind of electrical current that joins us all together. So just to riff a little bit on the poem that Todd read out there, "Screen to screen the world o'er shall neighbors be for all that." So happy Year of the Ox to everybody. And thank you so much, Todd, for bringing us together in this event.
Thank you, Leith. And that was the immortal memory sort of going out, one of the traditional things. And I asked Leith to speak, and she is an expert in Burns. She teaches English and at Simon Fraser University, where I first wore a kilt when I was a tour guide at Simon Fraser University. And that was the first time I ever had haggis, and I admit I gagged. So sorry, I did. But we've got this wonderful haggis from Jackson's Meats in Kitsilano neighborhood in Vancouver. This is our appetizer. So I'm showing you the takeout dinner that we're having as well. So I think a number of people ordered the special Gung Haggis Fat Choy takeout dinner box for 2 people for $65. So this is the haggis dumpling. You get 2 of them, 1 each. And this is haggis and shrimp put together, because I know haggis on its own doesn't taste as good, but you know, it's wonderful there. This, I'm using my fingers because I'm going to eat this. This is lobak go. My grandmother used to make this. This is turnip cake. Really good. Much better than bashed neeps, which is traditional haggis. But you know, if we're going to make Chinese people eat haggis, we are going to ask Scottish people to eat spicy jellyfish. So yes, we have the lettuce wrap. So you take this and you put haggis in here along with all these really tasty, crunchy things. And we've had people say this is the only time they've seen people eat so much haggis. So doing that. We have Mongolian beef. So it is the Year of the Ox. We're going to eat the ox or the cow. We have Buddhist feast, broccoli and mushrooms and thingies. It's a vegetarian dish, but it is traditional. And also at Chinese New Year, you're going to eat rice noodles. So long life noodles. We have Ifu noodles, I think with abalone sauce. It is really good. One of my favorite dishes. And at this point, before we go into our final 2 songs of the evening, I want to give a shout out to Madeline Teen in Montreal, Reese Gardner in Boston. We talked already to Bill McFadden in Seattle. My mom's cousin, David Young in Toronto. We saw Simon Kempston in Scotland. We've gone international with Regina and so many places. So thank you everybody for joining in. And we are going to do Robert Burns poetry set to the tunes of his day. No, our day. Are you guys ready? Okay, so that's what they would do is Robbie Burns would take songs, his poetry, set them to the contemporary songs of the day, like Neil Gow, who was a contemporary at that time. And we have set to the tune of somebody who the royal genealogist said, you know what, you're related to Scottish royalty. They said that about him. But yeah. Are you ready, Michelle?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Let me get my words here. And yes. Okay. Oh, I've only got one sheet here. Can I have another sheet? Thank you. Okay. Okay. Jonesy, you can have that one back. Thank you. Okay. Michelle.
Ready?
Yep. Oh, my love is a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. And my love's like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. Till all the seas gone dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun. I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life, they shall run. I went down to a Robbie Burns dinner. There neeps and tatties, and the haggis was a winner. And it's Burns, Burns, Burns. It's Robbie Burns. It's Robbie Burns. Fair fa, you're on the Sansi face. Great chieftain of the puddin' race. Upon them, and you take your place. Long's my arm, is where they grace. You powers that be, mankind your care, and dish 'em out their bill of fare. Oh, Scotland wants no skanking wear. Give her haggis, it's a grateful prayer. Here we go, everybody. Went down to a Robbie Burns dinner. There neeps and tatties, and the haggis was a winner. It is Burns, Burns, Burns. It's Robbie Burns. It's Robbie Burns. Here we go. Joe McDonald. Highland Fling. You're going to do it again. Keep going. Kilt twirl. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Joe. Here we go. For Ode Lang Syne, my dear. For Ode Lang Syne. We'll take a cup of kindness yet. For Ode Lang Syne. Here we go. I went down to a Robbie Burns dinner. There neeps and tatties, and the haggis was a winner. It's Burns, Burns, Burns. It's Robbie Burns. It's Robbie Burns.
For the people at home.
I went down to a Robbie Burns dinner. There neeps and tatties, and the haggis was a winner. It is Burns, Burns, Burns. It's Robbie 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 Burns. All right. We did practice that a few times, so that was good. And the next song is a traditional gathering, so Canadian Guy Lombardo made it famous. We're going to do Ode Lang Syne. This is the final song of the evening, and we want to thank all the performers, everybody who came in on Zoom, and the restaurant that made this wonderful food, the people who ordered the food, the people who wrote the song. So it's sort of, this evening is like a love poem to Robert Burns. You know, people have written the poems along the same themes. I loved how Fiona mentioned it. trying to dig down into the meaning and the culture. I loved how Ken McGugan is having fun with it. Leith puts it in a global perspective. And as I like to say, you know, the Scots and the Chinese, they didn't sometimes like each other when they got here in Canada. The politicians made the laws. The Chinese, you know, there was a head tax that kept them out of Canada. But their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, they met, they fell in love, they had babies, they got married, not necessarily in that order, but we're all friends. So here we go for Old Lang Syne.
Ever brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot, and days of Old Lang Syne. For Old Lang Syne, my dear, for Old Lang Syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Old Lang Syne. And here's a hand, my trusty
Virtual hands join each other all around the world. Thank you, everybody, for joining in wherever you are in the world. And if you can't join in, tell your friends, because this is going to be recorded and hopefully we can see each other. And Bonnie Nish is here. So thank you, Ali and Bonnie from Word Vancouver. Thank you, Alan Cho. Thank you, Alwyn, for our wonderful tech support in making this happen. Asian Canadian Writers Workshop. Alan, yes. Michelle, thank you for being here. Joe. This is called the Shung, and I can't hear you anymore.